Dude, this is first attempt. Thanks for being the first one.
We're a guinea pig. We'll smash it.
It's hard to make climbing videos when you're just inside on a hangboard, right?
Yeah, there's only so much you could do, especially because you made a hangboard video like
I know.
last month or whatever, and now we're in isolation, so it's basically the only thing you could have done.
Here's the thing. Yeah, I didn't know. So I didn't know. Obviously, I didn't know lockdown was coming, and I have all these plans to try and get stronger and everything. And I was like, okay, my finger strength, I need work on that. Yeah. Planning the whole hangboard thing, did a whole month, and then by the end of it, it's lockdown time. It's like, I could have been climbing all that time.
I know. Yeah, it doesn't help that the weather is like
perfect. It's beautiful.
It's so good. All I want to do is go out climbing, and I'm stuck inside.
Yeah, I know. We're rolling into it right now. Let's just keep going with this.
No, this works.
But so quick intro right now. I'm talking to Alex Waterhouse. He's joining me. This is the first podcast, number 1. I'm calling the podcast the Higher Ground Podcast. Hosted Andrew MacFarlane. You're on my YouTube channel right now. Maybe you're listening somewhere else, but I'm talking to pro climber, GB team, Alex Waterhouse. And yes, we're talking about the weather right now. As you do, you talk about the weather. And for those of you who don't know, in the UK, it has been absolutely beautiful. It's been so nice these last couple weeks. As soon as we went to lockdown, it was 20 degrees.
I have never seen this many nice days linked together in a row. There's stuff that hasn't been dry in years, I think, that's dry now.
Permanently wet all the time. It's now dry and ready to go.
Beautiful, but we're stuck inside. No climbing. I'm hoping that will be one of the first things to kind of come like out of lockdown, is we'll be able to go climbing outside, because aside from the kind of the issue of like overwhelming the health service if people get injured, going climbing, bouldering, especially like in like isolated places, that's pretty like social distancing as it is. So I'm hoping that will come back quite quickly. At least that's going to happen well before climbing gyms open, which is going to happen well before climbing competitions start up again. So
I was just talking to my buddy the other day, and we were saying climbing gyms are probably the worst place. It's probably the place you're most likely to catch something.
You just can't. It's very difficult to clean.
You can't do it.
And like, there's just so like everybody's climbing on the same things. It's not like even a gym, you can kind of wipe down equipment in between people because the contact surfaces are fairly limited. Yeah. But especially with all the information about it, like staying on plastics for a long time, like it makes it pretty tough for climbing gyms at the moment, I think. Yeah,
exactly. Oh man. But outside would be a dream. I could handle this so much better if we could just get outside. But yeah, you're outside, it's harder to catch. You can keep your distance really easily. But again, you don't want to get injured. You don't want to back up the NHS any more than they need to right now. Hopefully they start easing some of this soon. You get outside.
Yeah, that'd be really nice.
Did you have projects that you were looking to do?
Yeah, so I went out climbing for so back pre-lockdown after the comps had been cancelled. I did manage to get out in the Peak District a little bit.
Yeah.
But now I'm back down in the Southwest. I've got some kind of projects that I want to go out and try around here. But most of my winter was devoted to training for comps. So I was rolling through the preseason preparation.
Yeah.
And so with that, it's quite difficult to really focus on projects, because any time that you go outside climbing is time that you could have been training, and it's always taking away from the training if you're going to go outside. So it at least at this time when we've got stuff coming up, it makes sense to kind of sideline that for a little bit. But now it's kind of all opened up again. I'm thinking about all the rocks all the boulders I want to go and climb.
Now, I think that was a big deal for you, right? Because you were on Team GB before, right? And then you went to the States, and then you came back, and then you got back on the team. Was it this year? This year you got back on?
So I got back on the team for 2020.
For 2020. So it was full commitment, get ready to go, do some international comps.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so I've been off the team for 3 or 4 years, and it really put the hammer down to focus on getting back on and trying to do international comps at the the end of 2018 or so. So for the whole of 2019 has pretty much been fully devoted to improving and getting back on the team. And then the idea was 2020 was the first season of like international comps to kind of ramp up, get the experience that I needed in that environment, and then like progress towards doing better and like to kind of have that taken away now. Like I have no expectation of there being any comps this year. I don't think, not at least until the winter. So it's this super weird sort of limbo because the overall goal doesn't change, but normally you've got this kind of roadmap of like, okay, in 8 weeks time I go to this comp. So for 8 weeks I train, these are the things I need to work on. I go, it's a test event. I do however I do, like put in whatever performance I can, look back at what I've done and go, okay, this wasn't right. This wasn't right. This was really good. This is what I need to do for the next one. And it kind of, it sets you on a path towards the goal, right? But now kind of all of that roadmap has been taken away and it's just like, okay, you want to be here in 2 years' time, but now there's nothing to kind of guide you along the path. So I think it's kind of given me I've always kind of intuitively added in those like little steps along the way, that like roadmap of mini goals towards the big goal. But to kind of have that taken away is now like, oh, okay, you really do need those little things that drive you every couple of months rather than just one big overarching goal. Yeah,
I find that's that keeping your mindset that focused for so long. So what now? You're going to set yourself the training goals? How do you keep the psych going? What happens?
I didn't really know how to get the psych going. For the first week of quarantine, I was like, sick. This is unlimited time to train. I'm so psyched. Like I'm going to hangboard every day. I'm going to condition. And then 2 weeks in, the novelty had worn off. I was getting bored of fingerboarding. I was kind of tired and all I wanted to do is sit on the sofa for a while. But now after that, like I was pretty unmotivated for a week or so. I went online, I ordered wood to build a board, and then I spent a week, like 7 or 8 hours every day, like building a board, shaping loads of holds. Now it's in the back garden, and I am so psyched again. Trying to get back.
I looked at this thing, and I was so jealous. I saw your post on Instagram. I am so, let's get this out. I'm so jealous of everyone who has space to build a board. I love London, but times like this, I wish I was somewhere else where you had a little bit of space, and it looks amazing. I can't believe you shaped your own holds too. You just whittle them down out of wood.
Yeah,
find the right size.
I'm pretty lucky to have the space. Like we're out in the country, so I've got a pretty decent back garden that I can put something up in. It's a shame that it's outside, but when the weather's like this, it doesn't make any difference. It's actually quite nice to train outside.
But it's a big difference though, isn't it? When you're actually able to climb something. Like part of the reason I love climbing so much is I'm not just going to a gym and like counting reps, and that can get you really far. And it's something you have to do for training like hangboard and stuff, but it's so nice to mix in the actual climbing part. And you've got that back now. Yeah. So the training is just something I do to try and like access more climbing movement. It's climbing movement and like really specific little adjustments and micrometers that get you up something. That's what's really interesting to me. It's not really about like pulling down really hard on a fingerboard or just pulling down hard on holds. Like that's not that interesting to me. Yeah. It's more about like the technical side. I do have to train because if I can't pull on the holds, I can't execute the technical movement. But like there is such a big difference in being able to get on the wall and actually do moves. It just feels so much more enjoyable. Do you think this is going to really set some guys back? Because, well, you built your own board now. You've got access to space that you can build these things outside and kind of set yourself up some training. Some people are going to have better training facilities for themselves than others. Do you think, I don't know how long this thing's going to go for, but could we potentially see some people set back quite a bit? Or do you think a lot of these pros will be able to keep it together and come back and everyone kind of be close to even? So there'll definitely be some offset for a while, depending on the training facilities you've got. Like there are some places, so if you talk worldwide, there are some places where people are still able to go climbing on like competition style boulders. And
it's not so much like a physical training thing, because everybody is still able to train and condition, but because that style is so like practice based, like all the running and jumping and all the movement based stuff, and it's quite a specific style. So if you don't do any of that for 3 months, then I think you're going to have a pretty hard time coming back into it. So this is the IFSC is basically giving everyone you'll have 60 days of notice before any comps start.
Okay.
So it's not like, oh, okay, we're hosting a comp next week, off you go, because a lot of people seem to think, or people think that would be unfair, because people have offset access to training facilities, which I definitely get. And that's definitely another argument for not having any comps this year at all, really, is if people haven't been able to train for 3 months, it's not really fair to throw everyone into a World Cup season or like Olympic selection. Even there's some selection events left to go.
Sure,
so how can you host that in an equal environment when everybody's not had the same access to training facilities?
Yeah. The Euro Championships, we still got to get some more people into the Olympics.
Yeah, so the European Championships, as far as I'm aware, they're looking at hosting it in the winter now, which makes sense. Originally, it was postponed. Well, so it was meant to happen in March, and then they postponed it to June. And now I don't think anyone has any expectation of anything easing up by June. So
yeah, probably not.
It'll happen maybe in the winter. So
do you think this delay is good for a lot of climbers? Because I was talking to a lot of people on the international circuit last year, and it was a crazy schedule. You have people trying to get into the Olympics. You're doing all the different types of disciplines. The schedule is insane. Like you're saying, once you commit yourself to international climbing and going to all these comps, it's just week after week after week. I think a lot of people are getting injured. So is there some good coming from this? Maybe some people can rest some injuries up.
Yeah, but I mean that's definitely the one benefit. I can't say I know exactly what the international season is like because I've not done it yet. But as far as I'm aware, it's like people are pretty on it for a long time. Like you spend the whole preseason training really hard for it, and then all of a sudden you're like whacked into 6 months of competing every couple of weeks. It's quite hard to, if you pick up niggles, which I think like when you're training at like at a high level, like shoulder niggles and finger niggles, you have to work around them because they do come along. But now is actually a really good opportunity to rest that stuff. So I actually had a slightly injured finger at the end of like the preseason training as we came into the kind of preseason comps. I had like a niggle in the A2 of my left ring finger.
Classic.
Just something I've dealt with before, and it comes and goes. But this has actually been a really good opportunity to kind of step back for a little while without any focus, and it's almost healed now. It's got a lot better. Yeah. So there is you have to take some kind of positives where you can. Like, it is a good opportunity to rest, but also if you can keep motivated and really like keep putting the hammer down, then it's an opportunity to kind of progress that you might not have had otherwise, especially in kind of relation to everyone else. Like it's going to be hard for everybody to maintain access to training facilities and maintain psych through this. Yeah. So if you're able to, then maybe you can take a step forward. But
let me ask you about the training in the UK. Would you say the best place is Sheffield? Is that the area where a lot of the guys and girls from the Team GB are, up in that area?
So that's where the majority of the team is based. Whether or not that's like the best place is kind of irrelevant, because if you've got the best climbers, then that kind of network effect means that it's so valuable to climb with people who are better than you. Like to be able to learn from other people on the same boulders at the same time. Like, see, okay, he's doing that differently. Like when I train a lot on my own, and I have done basically since I started climbing down the southwest. And training in that vacuum can be really valuable because you're just focused on improving. You're just focused on bettering yourself. But at the same time, you don't see how other people do it. You don't see how they're doing things differently. And that is, I think, is really where you can learn stuff. Surrounding yourself with people who are slightly better than you is such a good way of improving. So if all of the best climbers live up in Sheffield, then I've been spending quite a lot of time there. I've been living in a van.
You have?
Yeah, sleeping on the streets of Sheffield, climbing with my friends and getting better. So.
That's like the climbing dream, isn't it? Just
sort of
that dirtbag lifestyle.
Yeah.
Climb in a van or live in a van, climb whenever you want, pull up, just go.
In a transit van with no windows.
With no windows. What's going on in there? I don't know what's going on there. Oh, man.
I did manage to get heater installed eventually, so it became a bit more pleasant.
Oh, wow. That's good. Yeah. A lot of people go crazy on souping them up, and they look, some vans could be amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely
you can
stand
go
there.
deep on it. I managed to put mine together pretty quick and pretty cheap, which is kind of the important thing. But I went to font in it last year. Like, I've spent a lot of time going to comps and stuff, and it's made a really big difference because instead of now driving somewhere, having to figure out somewhere to stay and the night before, I can just kind of rock up, and it's where I live a lot of the time anyway. So there's no real difference.
Van life. What's the best van? If I was going to build a build out, I know I've seen a lot of guys get Sprinter vans.
Yeah,
in the States.
I think a Sprinter is that's kind of the gold standard. They're a lot more expensive, but they'll go for like 300,000 miles a lot of the time. And I think they're quite easy to kit out. I couldn't afford a Sprinter, so I bought a transit van off the side of the road for $2,000, and then spent £1,000 kitting out the back of it, and now it does everything I need it to do. Doesn't necessarily look the prettiest, but
it's cheap rent.
It's cheapest. Yeah, all I have to pay for is fuel, and that's really cheap now too. But.
Okay, back to the GB team. How hard is it to get onto the Team GB? There's a lot of you. I was looking at the list. I think there's like 14 of you. Mm-hmm. Is that a set number of spots? And who decides who gets to get on the team and not? How is it decided? Do you know?
So I do know because I've looked very, very carefully.
I bet you have.
So I've spent like 3 years being basically one place out of the team in every British comp that I go to. So there are two kind of routes to being on the team. The first route is through international comps. So if you make, as a general rule, if you make a top 30 at a World Cup, then you're on the team for next year. There's a couple of different ways of doing it as well. You can go through like youth international competitions. So if you do well at the European Youth Cup or the Youth World Championships, then you're kind of fast tracked to the senior team. But obviously that route, you need to already be on the team. So you need to be on the team, be selected for internationals, and then do well at internationals. Yeah. And obviously as performance at international level is the best predictor of performance at international level, you're on the team for next year. And then there are a number of spots left over, generally 2 or 3 per discipline per gender. Yeah. So for the next non-pre-selected people in the British Bouldering Championships or the British Elite Climbing Championships. So if first and second at the British Bouldering Champs are pre-selected and third, fourth and fifth aren't, or third and fourth aren't, then third and fourth will go onto the team. So as somebody who's not on a team, the only opportunity to get on the team is the British Bouldering Championships or the British Elite Climbing Champs, which makes those comps incredibly stressful. Like really, really, like if you're not on the team, it's your one chance a year. Like you get one chance, and then you're done. So if I didn't make the team last year, then I wouldn't be able to have a hope of doing international comps until 2021. So there's a really big time lag between getting on the team and then competing. So you have to be on the ball on that day.
That is a lot of stress, but I guess that's climbing though in competition, right? There's gonna be a lot of stress internationally, but that is pretty crazy, especially when you look at. When I'm always amazed when I go to these competitions and I watch you guys, because you're all so capable, so strong, and sometimes it's the smallest of margins that separates you. It could be a technical slab, it could be one of these dynamic type climbs. Because you guys are all so strong, you can bear down on small stuff and usually power through certain things. So then it becomes these other variables. How well did you read it? And it's not always the strongest person, you could say, that wins it every time.
Thank God, because it's certainly not me.
Well, yeah, so if you don't know, Alex loves slab climbs. Every time you're like, oh yes, give me one of those.
Thank God.
You take your time. I see you like monoing bolt holds.
I don't think I've done a comp where I've not pulled on a screw hole on a volume for a long time.
I can't do that. My fingers are too big for that. But yeah, that is a lot of pressure. How do you deal with the pressure in those situations?
So, for me, the easiest way to deal with pressure is to not focus on the result at all. So if you just go to a comp and you say, I just want to climb as well as I can, and then whatever happens will happen.
Yeah.
That is by far the best way of me getting results. Like, but as soon as you have any expectation, as soon as you've done a comp and done well, or you need to get a certain result, like so the BBCs is an example, because if I didn't get top 6 or top 7, then if I didn't make the final, basically I wasn't getting on the team. So that makes the semi-final like the most stressful round you can imagine, because as soon as you don't do a boulder, it's like, it's not just, okay, I'll do the next one, which it should be. That's the optimal way of going about it. It's, oh my God, I've failed. Like, this is the last year of my life and I've wasted it on that boulder.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So I kind of melted in that situation. What is much easier is having a full season of comps to go and do, or a series of comps in a row, and you basically just say, okay, I'm going to go to this one, I'm going to learn whatever I can, I'm going to try my hardest and see what comes out of it. Okay. That's the easier way of dealing with the pressure.
Sure.
But the more you do it, the more you get used to it. Like, you can just enjoy the high pressure moments, and that's kind of what makes it fun. Being able to execute in like that kind of environment that's a really satisfying feeling. That's most of the reason I do it, is for those times when you get to the top of the block and you're like, I had absolutely no right to get up that. Like, I'm psyched.
I think there's something to that the people that are most relaxed are the ones that are often do the best. And if any of you have seen or haven't seen, Alex was at Adidas Rockstars this year. We were both there. I got some footage of him. We got a video. But it seemed like you had no expectations, nothing going in. You qualified here in the UK, you made it to Germany, and then you went through the open qualifier round and made it to semis, because you were in the top guys to make it through. And then in semis, it was one of the hardest sets I've seen. I've seen, like, a lot of people were falling, a lot of people weren't sending anything. You rolled up probably with no expectations, and you cruised, or you did the first boulder, which was really powerful. And that got you, and that got you through the next round. Or it got you high, no, sorry, it didn't get you to the finals, but it got you really high placement. And for a long time, you were in that top 6 position.
Yeah, it was fun.
With like Olympic climbers and some of the best in the world.
Yeah. No, it was a cool experience. But like, that's exactly the type of environment that I think it's quite easy to like get a good result in, when you're not saying like, okay, I need to make the final. It's okay, I'll just climb this boulder, and if I do it, then absolutely sick. Like, I can walk away happy, and if I don't, then I just do the next one. Like, but it's really hard to switch into that mindset when almost it actually matters. That transition between like, oh, I'm just happy to be here and like doing my best, to I'm not happy unless I'm making the final, or I think I can make the final, and if I don't do that, then I've like not met my expectations. So like.
Have you been climbing for a long time? Did you start doing competitions when you were young?
Yeah, so I started climbing when I was 11, and I think I did my first competition, the youth climbing series, down in the southwest, when I 3 months after that or something.
Oh wow!
So I've kind of been in it for a little while, and then did a couple of years of national competition, and then made it onto the junior GB team in about 2012 or so. Mm-hmm. So that's like 8.5 years ago.
8 years ago.
And then I did a whole, like, basically growing up, I grew up with like European competitions, and started off in lead and then transitioned to boulder later on. Yeah. And then finished that when I was like 17 or 18, 19, something like that.
And then you went to the States, right? Did you you went to college over there?
Yeah, I went to university over in the US for a little while.
What was that like? Do you notice a difference between the climbing cultures in the US compared to the UK?
So traditionally, climbing in the US is always like, it's a bit meatier, like big moves, big pinches, like slapping between stuff. And that absolutely my anti-style. Like I've never been good at like really powerful, like hard pulling boulders.
Oh man, I love that stuff. Okay. You're technical, right?
Yeah. So I went to the US, basically just focused on getting strong for 3 years. Came back and I couldn't climb slabs anymore. I came back to all the comps and I couldn't get up them at all. I think I finally managed to like reintegrate that and get a bit better again. But it's interesting to kind of go away and not climb on that stuff for a long time. But I came back a lot stronger and I could pull a lot harder. So I think
you also
made me a more well-rounded climber.
And you got footage. You should go check out Alex's YouTube channel. You did a classic 9A, The Fly, just really crimpy 514D. This climb looked so hard. It looks so hard. It's in New Hampshire, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's at Rumney.
What was that like? How long did that take you to do? How long did that take you to do?
So I first looked at it when I first moved there in 2016. Kind of went over. It's right in the middle of Waimea, which is probably the best crag in my opinion, the best crag there. It's got like 9A plus, 8C plus, 9A, 8C, like all in a line across the main face. All ridiculously good climbs, by the way. So we kind of went up there when I first got there, and it's right in the middle, and because obviously it's quite a small, it's essentially a boulder on a rope, but you can come up and feel the start holds, and the first move is the hardest move, and it goes off these two little teeny tiny crimps with one of the worst feet I've used, and you just big powerful move up into a shoulder to another really small crimp. But you can kind of go up, and every time I went there, I'd like feel the start holds and be like, "Oh, they're still really small." And it was kind of the sort of project where it was like, "Wow, I'd really like to do that one day." And then over the years, as I kind of went past and felt it and ticked off the other stuff at the crag, it was like, "Okay, now I'd really like to try it seriously." And then after I started trying it seriously, I think it was 4 sessions or so over 2 seasons. So I tried it at the end of the autumn. The autumn before I did it, and then when the spring kind of warmed up again, because it gets pretty cold up there.
It's really cold.
Again, the snow melted. Went back up and got it done in a couple of sessions. But it was more of like it felt like a lot longer than the actual like process of working it took, because it was kind of on my mind for a long time.
Yeah, you're dreaming about the problem.
Yeah, no, it's kind of the epitome of my. I really like full crimping little holds. Really like going down on small things. So it was kind of the epitome of my style in the area. So it was nice to kind of reach that pinnacle after a little while.
Do you care about climbing grades outside at all? Is that, or are you just going after you? I know everything's relative, but do you think about that when you're going to pick a project? So
with the Fly, it wasn't really important because it's not. So it's graded 14D 9A, but it's 6 moves long. So how can it be like I know you clip a bolt, but it's not. I don't really see like myself having climbed 9A, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah.
But like I don't know. It's quite difficult. But climbing grades are a really good measure of like how I'm improving. Like I did my first AA when I was like 14 or something, and then you can see the progress in my climbing through the grades of the stuff that I've climbed. Like, and so a new grade signifies something, even if it's if I climb 1 AC plus, I might not be an AC plus climber, but I couldn't have done an AC plus 2 years ago. So it just signifies that progress and that progression that I kind of undertook.
You climbed 9A at 14, so that was 3 years.
No, I climbed 8A.
Oh, sorry, 8A. You climbed 8A. That's V11. I'm constantly doing the conversion. I think I'm better at it now when I first moved over here. V11 within 3 years of climbing. Do you?
That might not be. Oh, sorry. No, 8A sport climb.
Sport climb. Okay.
Yeah, when did I climb 8A boulder? So I think my first AA was Careless Talk.
Ooh, this is a great climb.
I think the best climb in the world. I would stand by that opinion.
You got a video of that one as well.
Yeah, decking it off the top and getting whiplash and.
It's a good one. It's what? How many meters high do you think? Like 7,
probably 8 or so.
8 meter high ball.
Top.
It's on this crazy arête in Stanage on the grit, and it's got this insane start, and then it's like delicate moves all the way to the top.
Yeah, so you start, it's like a hanging arête. So you pull on, then you bump up the arête a little bit, and then kind of the iconic move is you put your foot up by your hand, and then you have to do a rock. You have to match the arête like with your foot this far away from it, and then rock over it and get up onto the arête. So that's like the hard section of it, but the top is still like V9 and high ball, and it's like proper grit climbing arête. So you've got little like pebbles for your feet and slapping around the arête and stuff, and it's pretty insecure. Yeah. I'm more impressed that when it was first done, it was done without pads.
Wait, who did it? Who's the first? Who got the FA?
Oh, Ron. Big Ron.
Ron
Fawcett.
Okay.
Wait.
No pads.
Yes.
That is the true old school way of doing it, isn't it?
So it was, I think, originally graded the E8, E9. Yeah. But like as it got high ball bouldered and boulder pads came along, like it's become a less serious endeavor. Like obviously it's still, you don't like falling off the top. But if you've got a sufficient number of pads, it's generally safe. But just, it's such a proud line. Like it's the sort of thing you pull up at the plantation car park, and it just sits on the side of the hillside, and it's like the most iconic line there. Like you can see it from miles around. It's absolutely striking.
It's one of my favorite places in the UK so far. When I went up to film with Louis, did an episode up there, and then I got to go back to try and climb myself. It started to rain, so I barely touched anything. But there's so many great climbs right in that area. Yeah. In a small cluster, it's beautiful. I love the gritstone. I love how that on a nice crisp day, it just feels amazing. Anyway, I can't wait to get back there. I don't think I'm going to be climbing on Careless Torque anytime soon, but there's a lot of other great classics up there.
Not to be taken away, the V4 to the right of that kind of rising ramp.
Yeah.
Taking the same height, but like an easier grade point.
Yeah.
Definitely worthwhile. So Stanage was, so as I was growing up, like a lot of the competitions and stuff used to be up in Sheffield. So we would go up, me and my dad would drive up every weekend, and like 5 hours up there on a Friday, go do the comp or training or whatever on a Saturday. And then quite often on the Sunday, we would go out to the gritstone and do some bouldering. So Stanage was kind of, because we'd been there a lot, like it was, if we only had a little bit of time, it was a really easy place to kind of go quick hit on the grit and experience that a little bit. So it's kind of one of the places that I've climbed the most over like quite a long period of time.
Yeah.
So it's like a really nice place. I really like going there.
It's a good test piece as well too, because everybody's climbed these classics, and you can kind of gauge where you're at compared to a lot of other people.
Yeah, and they're all classics like in their technicalities, if that makes sense. It's not just like a peak limestone. Like you could go to Raven Tour, but it's not about how well you can climb. It's more about how strong you are. So as like the gritstone style is something that I think it fits better with my climbing style, because it's more about how you position your body, how you stand on your feet, like, and so it kind of marked my like technical progress throughout my career, if that makes sense.
Yeah. There's another place that you've climbed that's a favorite of mine. It's in Thailand, Riley Bay.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants to do a climbing destination trip or something, I have to recommend this place. You go to Krabi, you take a boat onto this peninsula, and it's like this like little climbing paradise. They have places for you to stay, climbing shops on the beach. You can do multi-pitch, you can do deep water soloing, you can do all these things right on the beach. It's scenic, it's beautiful. And you climbed there, and you did the hardest climb in Thailand, is that right?
Yeah, so Greed is a 8C+, like kind of sits right on the beach, like a beautiful gray streak all the way up the right side. So I first went in 2016. I took a gap year after I finished school and traveled around Southeast Asia for a few months. And I think we stayed there for like 3 weeks or something. It was my first climbing trip outside of Europe, and like it's not hardcore climbing destination. Like so I one of the places I've been quite a lot, like when I was younger, was Seus. Now Seus, you stay in a campsite, you wake up early, you hike up to the crag. It's like an hour and a half up the hill. sweating, it's hot, like you get there and all the climbs are amazing, but on a rest day you sit around in a tent and chill out. Tonsai is completely different. You like wake up generally early-ish, you saunter down to the beach, maybe grab a crepe on the way or something. And then you spend a few hours climbing on the beach until the sun comes on the crag, and then you go, you sit, you chill out, you slackline, eat good food, and like play in the water and go out on boat trips and snorkel, and like it's the perfect like holiday climbing destination.
Yes,
really enjoy it. Like I think it's changed quite a lot over the years, and it's not quite the same vibe as it used to be.
Oh, really?
5 or 6 years ago. Yeah. So Tonsai. So there are like 3 sections of, there's like Railay and Tonsai. So Railay is like quite a big like touristy destination. So there's a lot of like package holidays and like just a lot more tourists in general. People who've come for a beach holiday. And then Tonsai is more climbers and backpackers. So the Tonsai area, all of the businesses used to be along the beach and down by the waterfront. And then a few years ago, so just before I went there for the first time, a big like holiday conglomerate, I'm not entirely sure exactly who it is, bought up all of that land, evicted all of the businesses, and built a big wall around that like front section. I think
no way.
Building like a giant, like a big like hotel or apartments or something.
Yeah.
So all of the businesses got moved back up the beach to kind of probably 100 meters or so away. And then like nobody is allowed access to like that front bit of the beach.
Oh, really?
So, quite a contentious issue as far as I'm aware. I'm not actually sure what's happened in the last couple of years because I've not been back.
It's been a few years for me too.
Tonsai has been like it's not the cleanest beach. I think the currents kind of bring in and hold on to a lot of the like pollution and nastiness from the surrounding area. So I think they haven't built stuff because it's not particularly clean. It's not like a very nice beach to go out swimming on when you first get there. So if you've got cuts, don't walk around the water.
Oh God.
You'll probably
climb. You should go climb anyway.
Go climb and then go to Railay if you want to go swimming.
Yeah, go to Railay. Yeah.
But the climbing's incredible. Genuinely one of my favorite places. And I first went and tried this climb in 2016, and then over a couple of years, like I came back 2 years after that, and then the year after that again came back and kept trying this thing. Finally managed to get it done.
Do you prefer sport climbing over bouldering, or vice versa, or they both just different and good?
I grew up with sport climbing. Like that's what I started with, and I first started competing in like league competitions as I was a junior, and then I kind of transitioned to bouldering. Found that more enjoyable. I still think I prefer bouldering. Like I like that the movements are all super maximal. Like generally, for me, especially in competitions, I think lead climbing is about who has the best endurance, who's the fittest. Whereas in bouldering, I think that a lot of other much more varied skills can shine through. So you can win a competition because you're really strong and really good at pulling on little edges, or you can win a competition because you have really good intuitive climbing movement and you can press your way up a little groove that nobody else can. Like all of those skills are kind of equally weighted. So it's a much more interesting prospect to go out and improve at that than it is to get better at sport climbing, where like you can improve by getting better technically, but it's almost certainly like your endurance that's going to be the limiting factor. And you can make your endurance last a bit longer by climbing better, but the fitter you are, the better you do, which is fine. That's like, it's a whole thing. Yeah. But bouldering, like I can go and get stronger, or I can go get better using my feet, or I can like get better at jumping, and like there's so many different aspects to improve at that it's a lot more of an interesting prospect. That and because the moves are super maximal, like I think I said earlier that I like finding those little teeny tiny bits of beta that make a massive difference. And bouldering can be something as subtle as the angle of your hand, or like on the fly. I couldn't do I did the first move once in like 2 sessions, and then I moved my left hand like half a pad over. Yeah. And I could do it like every fourth time or something. Like it made such a big difference, and it's such tiny little things. And it like finding myself on the edge of possibilities, like my own possibilities like that is like much more enthralling than
I feel like that's the case as you get higher and higher in grades with the technicality. Those small, minute details, and I'm always impressed when I'm climbing with the pro. One, their sequence memory is amazing, their accuracy fantastic, and your ability to see these small, minute things that make such a difference. And it takes a long time to learn, I think.
Yeah.
I guess it's another reason why climbing with other people, especially people who are stronger, more experienced, can be so helpful, because you gain a lot of those insights from doing that.
Yeah.
What's your training like? If, let's say, we're not in lockdown, it's optimal conditions. What's a typical week look like for you?
So I've played around with this quite a lot over the last couple of years. So it depends what part of the season I'm in and where I'm at. Like so if I'm closer to comps, then there'll be more of a focus on like technical movement and climbing comp boulders, or climbing comp bouldering moves, or moving on slabs and playing with movement a lot more. Or if I'm kind of further away from competitions, then it's a lot more conditioning. I have tried like training like 6 days on, 1 day off, and you just feel absolutely wrecked all of the time. Generally now I climb kind of 2 or 3 days on, take a rest day, and then 2 or 3 days on again. So for me, a lot of the training is focused on like getting stronger and moving more powerfully, because I've always struggled with that, even though I'm improving.
Yeah.
So I generally start with like quite a long warm up. So I'll start with like TheraBand exercises, warm up my shoulders a lot. And then I spend quite a long time on the fingerboard. So I'll warm up for maybe an hour or so before I even start climbing on the fingerboard. Because I feel like I'm most likely to get injured in my shoulders and my fingers. So when I pull on the wall, I want to make sure that those are pretty much ready to go. Like obviously you can warm up the last little bit of each of them through climbing, but because climbing movement is so varied and unpredictable, like I feel like you're much more likely to get injured when you pull on the wall. Like at this point, I really don't like pulling on even jugs or anything before I'm like pretty much fully warm. It's like a weird aversion.
This is I was just talking to Aiden Roberts a couple of weeks back for the hangboarding video. Actually, we were having a session. He does the exact same thing, because you can do it. You can load the tendons so carefully, and just take your time with it. And injury would be the absolute worst thing for someone like you in your position. So you got to warm up the instrument. It makes sense. So you do a bunch of hangboarding before. I guess it depends on the time of the year that you're training.
Yeah. So generally, once I'm warm, I go and do some kind of technical movement stuff. So basically high quality climbing. So you don't want to go and do like top end technical stuff when you're not at your maximal. Like you want to do that while you're really maximally pulling, so you like develop skills when you're at your peak, if that makes sense. So if you were to go and try and climb perfectly some competition boulders when you're absolutely wrecked at the end of the session, then you're just not going to be ingraining the right movement patterns for competitions. Because comps, you go in, you should be pretty much like top form, just warmed up, like feeling like you're really ready to go. So some kind of play stuff. So a lot of the time it kind of varies between sessions, but sometimes it will be like dyno play. So you'll go and make up a load of dynos and coordination-y moves and get used to moving your hands quick and learning those kind of moves. Sometimes I'll go and play on like slabs, especially if I'm like not feeling like I'm really pulling well, then I'll go and play on some slabs and like push around and really like foot placement, movement, like try and get all of that in tune. And then I go into some kind of like maximal strength climbing generally. So I do quite a lot of board climbing, generally because there's really good access to it in the UK. And it's a style that I'm not that good at. Like my contact strength of like going and grabbing stuff is one of my weaknesses. So it's something that I can really make a lot of gains by going and doing. So I do a lot of that. So generally that, for me, that's generally working projects. So I'll go and I'll like go through a list of the projects that I'm trying. I'll make some stuff up. I'll go back and repeat stuff that I've done in the past. So it's just kind of a general climbing session with movement. Generally, I make up everything on my own. But if I'm climbing somewhere else and there's a stoke dap or whatever, I can flip through other people's boulders. Because it's really hard to climb all on your own boulders, because even if you try not to, you have a style, and even if you try and set something different, then there are some moves that you would just never even think about. So being able to climb on other people's boulders as well is really useful. But if you set your own stuff, every move as close to maximal as it can be.
And this is why getting a great route setter is just so important. Do you have favorite route setting? I won't put you on the spot and start calling people out, but are there places that you enjoy going to do? Because I imagine you roll up to a lot of gyms and you probably just smash through most of the stuff that's on the wall. Are there any gyms that really give you a good challenge?
So I climb a lot of the hangar so I'm sponsored by the hangar in Plymouth. Yeah. They do a really, really good job of setting that top end. So Mikey Cleverton, who's the head setter, he's got a really good eye for coordination movements. So their pink competition circuit generally has 2 or 3 boulders that I can't do, really challenge me and make me work hard. In terms of competition sets, so hard comp sets, Mile End in London has a really good. So Alex Lamel, who's the head setter there, always puts together a really good tour, and they bring a lot of really good setters. So there have been a few really, really good competition sets there, and it's really worthwhile because they use a lot of the setters that they use in British national competitions. So you can kind of get the same style there. And then the hub at Rockover, they do a lot of work with the British team, and they do the British Federation for Sport Climbing. No, the British Foundation for Sport Climbing. They run training sessions, so they bring in setters and set competition hard World Cup style boulders, and then they run a training session on them quite frequently. So they often have some good stuff to go and train on. So,
and the hold sets are really important. And let me ask you this: if someone's what are some mistakes you see for some people who've been climbing for a while? They want to get stronger, and what kind of? I know it depends on the person, but do you see any common mistakes? Do you think a lot of people don't reach their max capability because maybe they're just training wrong, or they're approaching things a bit differently?
So one thing that I find a lot of people struggle with is they're not that intentional about how they climb. In comp climbing, every time you pull on the wall, you want to go, okay, this is what I'm going to try on this attempt. I'm going to try this sequence, or I'm going to try really focusing on that foot, or I'm going to make sure I hit that hand in exactly the right place. And you want to be really intentional about all those little details, or one little detail at a time if you're working something over a long period of time. But I think there's a lot of people who just kind of throw themselves at stuff without really, you want to come off the wall and say okay, why did I fall off? What can I do differently? And then when you get on the wall the next time, really execute that specific thing. Because if you just kind of get on and you say, okay, I'm going to climb now, that just means you won't improve. Because the kind of the feedback loop of climbing is I tried this, it felt wrong. What was wrong about it? And eventually you'll get to the point where you're able to feel out the position on the wall and be able to you get a really good feeling for how the moves are and what you need to do differently in order to get up them. How it can be such subtle things, and it's just experience and that intentionality that will allow you to push towards that.
Okay, I think that's a good one.
I don't know.
I've seen that in myself too over the years, where over the last year I've been working more to consciously make an effort to get better. Where before I would climb 2-3 days a week. I want to get better and I'd try hard, but I would often just fall into the same type of routine and maybe just approach a climb and may not come down and think about why did I fall there? Was it body position? Am I just not strong enough? Maybe I'm catering towards my strengths too much and not working on those weaknesses. And then I think that might be where plateaus tend to come from. But I like that because I think that's a good point. You guys are really good at really analyzing what you did and what you need to do to get up it. And when you're in comps, you get like 5 minutes. So you absolutely have to be able to do that, right?
You've got 3 goes, maybe 3 to 5 goes.
Oh God, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty stressful.
That pressure's crazy.
Also, something that I've noticed over the last few years is there's been kind of a training renaissance, as it were.
Oh yeah?
There's been such a 3 years ago, you would never be in a situation where you wouldn't be able to get on a fingerboard at a wall. But now it seems like everybody is trying to get stronger fingers and fingerboarding all the time. And I think there's a lot of people that start that sort of training too early. So that I have people asking me questions like, I've been climbing for 6 months. I'm climbing V2, V4, V5, V6. I actually don't think it matters. But they've not been climbing for very long and they want to go and fingerboard. Whereas I think there's a lot of better, your time could be better spent elsewhere. Like you can be as strong as you like, but if you can't move and work with that strength, then there's no point. Like it's really amazing to be climbing hard after not climbing for very long. But I don't think the best route for your long-term improvement is to go away and get stronger. Climbing is a movement sport. It's not a strength sport. And being stronger will help you do some harder stuff, yes, but that will cap you out a lot quicker than if you go away and put down a base of really good movement. So I basically only climbed slabs for like 3 years.
Wow.
I couldn't climb I was 11, so it's not particularly relevant, but I couldn't climb an overhang. I wasn't strong enough to do any of that for like 6 months of climbing. I couldn't do anything that had some steepness to it.
Yeah.
But it meant that as I started getting stronger, I had the kind of technical movement to back it up. So I still think my peak is further away because my technical ability is still better than how strong I am. So now I've kind of built that base. I can go in, focus on getting stronger, and I have been for a few years. But I don't think it should come in the opposite direction. When you start, is the best time to do that.
That's a great point. And when I bring people climbing for the first time, or I just see other people, you can see that they're first time climbing. A lot of the time, they're strong enough to do some of these easier climbs, and they're over gripping. Obviously, they haven't learned the technique yet, and they can't get to the top. And the last sometimes like, they just feel weak or whatever. Like, you are strong enough to do that climb. It's that technique side of things. I even went through the same thing last year. I did a lattice test. I wanted to climb. I climbed my first V7. I wanted to do V10 this year. And they did the strength test, and they're like, "Oh, your grip strength's already V9, V10." I'm like, "Wait." I think we have it in our heads so often that the one thing that's limiting us is strength, and we get hyper focused on that. But it was eye opening for myself to be like, "Wait a second, I need to work on all these other things." It just opened the floodgates of having it all wrong for so long. I'm coming back now to start working on strength a bit more to try and bring that base level up a bit. But it was quite eye opening to see like there's all these other weaknesses that you need to work on.
Yeah. So for some context, I can't one arm hang a 20 mil edge. I can't one arm hang the bottom edge of the Beastmaker.
Yeah.
2000. I can't one arm hang the lattice edge, and I've climbed V15.
Oh my God.
No, V14. Oh my God, V14.
V14.
I'll
That's
climb
close.
15, but not yet.
Do you have a boulder already picked out? You might.
No, I haven't got an idea. I'd love to climb Dreamtime, just because it's classic and it's one of the, it's again another pinnacle of my style kind of boulder. But I've not got a specific project in mind, but it'll come. But so I think my fingers on a lattice test would be like V10 strong.
No way.
No
way.
Maybe V11, but I've climbed harder than that.
There's no way.
There's so much more to it. It really is.
There's a lot to it. It's intimidating seeing that latticed one arm hang test. And you see some of the numbers these guys put
It's
up.
intimidating. It's watching like Jim Pope and Will Bosey and Aiden Roberts. Those boys have some strong fingers.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So at that point, what do? You're just maintaining your finger strength. What do you got to work on then? I guess they got to figure out their weaknesses, but
I'm sure every one of them knows exactly. So I think this is also one of the things that top climbers are better at than the general population. Is everybody has a really clear idea of what their weaknesses are, and they're always working towards improving those little things, because you're only as strong as your weakest link. So from speaking to people, it's definitely clear that they have a really good understanding of what those are, what those little things that they have to work on are, and quite often they can get quite specific. So like I'm not very good at my shoulder engagement when I'm crossed over on pinches. That's one little in compression I'm quite good, but this is like a really weak movement for me. So it's just like, so I've got board problems that work specifically on that. So it's like quite obviously the weaknesses become like less broad as you improve, because you spent so long working on, like, the way you improve is improve the weaknesses and they become broader, like they reduce in breadth as you get better. But I think having a really strong idea of what those are all the time allows you to kind of focus your training towards that. So maybe you've got really strong fingers and that's not a weakness. So really there's not much point in trying to get stronger fingers right now until you've kind of brought everything else in line.
Sure. How long do you think you're going to be in competition climbing? Maybe it's too early to ask, but you have some guys who are like Dave Behrens, who's like he's been on the team forever, right? He's still as strong as ever.
Alive. Yeah, it's so impressive. The fact that he's maintained such a high level for a long time is amazing.
It's phenomenal.
I really look up to Dave. I think I really rate him. I don't know. So if I would like to give my best shot at competing in the 2024 Olympics. I think that's as good a goal as any. And if I can stay on track for that, then I'll be around for a little while. But we'll see. That's like I say, like, it's quite hard to have like a big goal away in the future when you haven't got all of those intermediate sub goals to focus on. So because I've not got comps for a little while, like, normally my goal is just the next comp or the next part of the season, like, or the British champs, or like whatever, like the preseason comps. It's always the next thing. It's not what's over there. So that's not really a goal. It's more of like it's the overarching goal, but like that doesn't change. I don't know. I'm struggling without having those little things in the middle to give me sight.
Yeah.
I've got a board project now, and I'm gonna smash it.
Man,
So that's the goal right now.
So jealous. How do you keep busy otherwise? You've got a company. Yeah,
so I make chalk bags, tiny climb chalk bags. Really, like,
shout out.
Things
I'll put a link down below.
I was like 11 or 12 and use them to fund my climbing. Like, it's not a massive income stream, and it's not what I spend most of my time doing, but it's something that I really enjoy. So in quarantine recently, and I think one of the best things I've like done for my mental health is I've got like a group of friends who every day at the same time we like play Call of Duty together. It's like so nice, like, especially in these times when we're not like getting a huge amount of social interaction, to kind of have that in my mind all day, like, has been a really nice thing to do. And then at the moment it's just a lot of reading, shaping holds, meditating, chilling out, watching YouTube videos. I watched a wonderful video yesterday, loving it. But yeah, just at the moment chilling. Training
nice.
is focus. But,
Training and focused, yeah. Oh man.
Smash.
All right.
Enjoy.
Well done. Thanks for coming on.
I think it was a good guinea pig session. Did it okay?
That was the best. That was great. I have no clue what time it is. Look at that. We're close to an hour. That's really good.
Yeah, just about an hour, something like that.
Man,
it'd be good.
Alex. So Alex Waterhouse, I'm going to put links to your Instagram page and everything like that. Your Tiny Chalk Bags.
Tiny Climb.
Tiny Climb. The chalk bags, tinyclimb.com. And they're really colorful, like Alex's shorts. If you ever watch Alex climb, he's got the brightest shorts on the wall.
Yeah, check those out. It's Oddballs. They're a foundation, and they support testicular cancer awareness. So go over there, buy some shorts, and feel your balls, gentlemen. There's no better excuse.
It's awesome. Alex Waterhouse, thanks. This is the first episode of the Higher Ground podcast.
That's the first background sound we had all day.
That's insane because I live right next to a busy street and I was expecting this to happen the entire time.
Well, it's a nice way to round it off.
All right. Thanks, man. Thanks for coming on. And can't wait to get you back on at another time and see how your training's going.
Cool. Have a great rest of your day. Enjoy lockdown.
Thank you. Enjoy your board.
Yeah, nice one.